Ghana, like most countries of the global community of nations, has signed up to the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, under the aegis of the United Nations. Ghana has particularly embraced the SDGs, with the current president serving a second term as co-chair of the eminent group of advocates for the SDGs. Comprehensive data for monitoring the progress of implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, is crucial to enable Parliament to perform its oversight and accountability roles effectively and ensure no part of the country is left behind. Government institutions, including the Parliament of Ghana, have struggled to systematically track progress against several development indicators because of lack of data or the skills in understanding and using data to inform policymaking. A contributing factor for this gap has been the often limited links between Parliament and the National Statistical System, as well as other data providers. In order to address the gap, the Data for Accountability Project, DAP, was initiated by the African Centre for Parliamentary Affairs, ACEPA, together with the Ghana Statistical Service, GSS, and the International Network for Advancing Science and Policy, INASP, and in collaboration with the Parliament of Ghana. With funding support from the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation for a 2-year period, 2019 to 2021.
That one simply stands for Data for Accountability. It was born out of ASEPA's kind of vision of working with parliamentarians across the continent and making sure that all the decisions that they make, those decisions are driven by data and by evidence. Because we felt at one point, after working with parliamentarians, particularly here in Ghana for many years, that they make decisions on a daily basis, with or without evidence. They are not waiting for anybody to provide them with data or evidence in order to make decisions. They have political timelines. They have manifestos that they are voted into power to implement. And so they will make those decisions on a daily basis, on a weekly basis. And most importantly, when it comes to a number of international conventions, agreements that countries are a part of, they make decisions without really any serious regard to whether they have evidence and data or not. I had the opportunity to go to the African Evaluation Network meeting in Nairobi, during which I spoke about some of the work that we did, particularly this reference to the politics of evidence, to a group of practitioners and donors and so on, saying, look, you can have all the best evidence that you can. I mean, our research, our work is showing that the politics of it needs to be taken into account, and that is where it's important to bring in members of parliament, because at the end of the day, they have to make decisions and so on. So that was how that was born. And fortunately at that event, the Ghana Statistical Service was also there. So we started a conversation to see how we could do something in our country. We could try to see how we could interest our MPs to use data and evidence in the decisions that they make. And then we framed it around the global initiative, that's the SDGs, that all our countries are signatory to.
We worked under DAP 1 to build capacities around oversight and representation roles of parliamentarians. We also work to support staff departments who are intermediaries who supply information to MPs to support their work. What we are seeking to do in DAP 2 is not very different. We are still working towards the goal of improving capacities to track SDGs implementation using data. We also want to contribute to the emerging field of the evidence-informed policy making.
Because the theme was around SDGs, we decided to focus on the committees that are at the center, if you like, of any discussions in the Ghana Parliament on SDGs. And so if you can imagine that revolves around money, because as a country we have committed to achieving the SDGs, which would mean that we have to have the resources, we have to have the policies that will drive, and so on. So because of that, we chose the Finance Committee of Parliament. We also chose the Committee on Poverty Reduction Strategy, because, logically, these are the two committees that are at the center of this. And then from the parliamentary administration angle, it is the Parliamentary Research Unit that is at the center of this. And then also, the committees department, the ICT, and so on.
The project aimed at helping the Parliament of Ghana to oversee the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) in Ghana by providing the evidence and statistics needed to monitor progress. The project supported by members of Parliament and staff of Parliament to improve upon how they use data in their work, as well as strengthening Parliament's organizational systems, shaping data use and expanding its relationships with key national data providers. Key activities undertaken on the DAP project include the training of MPs, parliamentary staff, and staff of the GSS to enhance appreciation for the value of data, enhance capacities for data production and use, a pairing and mentoring scheme to boost the capacity of staff to generate and supply data to MPs, and the field monitoring of SDGs.
Absenteeism and lateness. And this is one of the things that he talked about, which I don't know whether it's a cultural effect or influence. Kids are not allowed to go to school when there's a funeral. So when there's a funeral, everybody stays in the community, nobody goes to school. We need to possibly look at the policy side of it, how we can get teachers to certain parts of the country. Yes, doctors, teachers, nurses in general. Because the challenge is that, and I've had that discussion with a lot of the Ghana Health Services, especially Dr. Siansari. He will tell you, you go to certain parts of the country and you have a lot of teachers and nurses and doctors there. Certain parts people don't want to go.
The issue of maternal health, and then the free maternal health that we have, issues that hamper the free maternal health is infrastructure. They don't even have one medical officer in NABDA, and it's a district that has been created since 2012. They don't have a hospital, they don't have a medical officer. Even their health director is a disease control man.
And I think it proved quite helpful for the MPs. It was an eye-opener. It was for them a first, if you like, since some of them have been in Parliament. They've never had that opportunity to experience firsthand how particular districts around our country are performing when it comes to, helping towards the attainment of the SDGs in our country.
The project also provided constituency-specific data to support the representational role of MPs through the development of constituency profiles for 5 constituencies, namely Hohoi, New Draben South, Asante Yachim Central, Wa East, and Ajumako Enyan Esiam. In addition, the project established an SDGs and statistics desk at the research department to ensure the availability of relevant data and supply of the same to MPs to facilitate their oversight of the SDGs. There were also activities to share learning through publications, video documentaries, blog posts, a project showcased during the African Statistics Week Celebration 2021 and the Data Fair, an innovative space which enabled producers of research materials to showcase the availability of important data and strengthen credibility and trust in the data.
I think it's so good that as an institution, institution of parliament, we may need to draw the attention of particularly the members of parliament to refocus on data and evidence. Because a lot of resources now are made available to members of parliament to support them to implement some of the promises that they have as frontline party activists made to the people for and on behalf of their parties. And if this evidence and data are given them, they will then be better informed as to where to channel the resources.
I visited the stands of Ghana Statistical Service at the data fair held in Parliament House a few months ago. And I have to confess, I went back to my office with tears because the data was so revealing and so demoralizing at the same time. But I think at the same time, upon a sober reflection, I realized that we have found the foundation for making scientific entries into the interventions that we have been talking about all the years.
We also got Parliament to begin to think about maybe how do you institutionalize some of these things, including even the establishment of a data center. We also set up a kind of relationship between the parliamentary administration, the staff, research and so on, and then the Ghana Statistical Service, so that information can flow and then they can, when they generate the information, it can be passed on to these people who are at the kind of center of supporting members of parliament to do their work.
The whole program on Dap 1 was very helpful, and I personally benefited because having a close working relationship with members of parliament, then the staff of the research office, and then helping the research team to establish SDG desks is what is going to help my office as a data production unit.
We did not have real access to real-time data from Ghana Statistical Service. Now they send us periodically. We even know the data before even sometimes it comes on air. So now we have real-time data from the Ghana Statistical Service. With the expert placement scheme too wasn't there. It's enhancing the relationship between research officers and the schedule officers at the Ghana Statistical Service.
At the end of the day, it also made GSS more visible and accessible to Parliament. Gone are the days that we were not having that particular close access to it. But with the inception of DAP 1, now GSS is visible. We're able to have a good relationship with the Speaker of Parliament and also both majority and minority leaders.
DAP 2 is not quite different from DAP 1. I think DAP 2, as I said, is simply building on what we have done in DAP 1. So in terms of areas of focus, in terms of the structure of the project, it remains the same. What is a bit different in DAP 2 is that at least we've learned some lessons in terms of the parliamentary committees that we targeted in DAP 1. And because particularly the Finance Committee has not been quite active in the project and all those things, I think we've had some rethink. So in DAP 2, the only thing that will be different, I think, is the fact that we are going to add some committees. So we are thinking about the Committee on Local Government and Rural Development, and then the Committee on Education. Then, together with the Committee on Poverty Reduction. So we think that if we have these 3 key committees, we would have been covering the entire kind of spectrum.
The Data for Accountability Project DAP represents the first focused effort to introduce data for SDGs monitoring to any subcommittees in Parliament. In addition, as the first partnership between the GSS and ASEPA, this project has been situated in an emerging but important intersection between the evidence-informed policy, parliamentary strengthening, and data sectors.
The training, capacity enhancement is an ongoing process. And for us, what is key for ASEPA is the fact that having done what they've done, we are looking forward to seeing them using this one in Parliament, using their skills, using their knowledge that they've gained in this workshop to actually apply it, support the MPs. That is the focus of this whole exercise. So we will be following up to see to what extent they are going to use this knowledge that they have acquired to support the work of members of Parliament.
As a staff member of the research department, one of our core duties is to support our members of Parliament in their line of duty. And to do this, data is very important in all of their functions. So yes, I was looking forward to being exposed to various sources of data, the various ways, and in fact the newest ways of analyzing this data to support them. And so far so good, I must admit, it's been wonderful.
Data is now the new era to drive development. And this is an opportunity for all of us to really appreciate the administrative data that we are collecting. And as we are in the era of implementing sustainable development goals, it's very good for us to also abreast ourselves with the new administrative template that we've been introduced to, and also the metadata surrounding the data that we collect.
I was very privileged to have been invited for this workshop organized by African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and also in collaboration with the Ghana Statistical Service, because when I came, I've learned so much on how to use administrative data to make informed decisions or to help us plan strategically in our districts.
Overall, I can say we can pat ourselves on the back and say, by and large, we have achieved, made some progress.